Well, please forgive me if I stumble lots, but I'm glad that you're here. And I was just going to say, I know that there is state soccer happening right now.
It just started a while ago.
That's exciting.
Golf. We have golfers who placed in finals for state.
They got second in state.
Wait, who did? Oh, they're done.
Oh, they're done. They were playing all
The
day.
second place in the whole state.
And we have some individual.
And Sean got third.
No.
That were in the whole
Yeah.
state.
Okay, this is huge. Steve Lowe is just like, thank goodness.
I know.
Oh,
So
and,
big day, big day.
Yeah, volleyball's playing and who else?
JV football.
Oh,
JV
girls cross country made it to state. So
Oh,
my
that's
friend
great.
said to me,
That is
I
exciting.
know, so
That's
it's
very
a
exciting.
really fun day.
It is a big day. And another meeting at 6. So anyway, we're going to be very prompt about this. This is my goal for today's meeting, okay? So to start off, does anybody have any comments? Okay, we'll start with public comments. Usually we'll say like you guys are on the agenda, so you'll provide got about 3 minutes per comment. We're gonna give 15 minutes max. Back to this, we can circle around. That's fine. And feel free to email me if there's something that you think of or that we need to actually do the next month. That's fine too. Did everybody get the minutes that Natalie sent? I sent at the last meeting and then we sent them last week. Was everybody able to look at those? So we want to make a motion.
I move that we accept minutes as they stand.
I second. Thank you. Thank you. And then really fast before Natalie put together this list of all of the members of SCC and their emails. Will you just look over it and make sure that everything looks correct? And I know that we did miss Cameron, even though he's on here. So I'm so sorry about that, but let's make sure that that everything is spelled correctly so that you guys are getting the emails. And then any guests, please feel free to sign in at the bottom of this too. Okay. All right.
But Erin, we need to vote on the minutes.
Oh, okay. So what do I say?
All in favor.
All in favor. Oh, just not a second doesn't count. We have to say all in favor. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Any, then you have to ask.
Oh, is there any opposed?
It's good to practice on the minutes. 'Cause, yeah.
Yes. Less pressure. Okay, that's great. Okay, now fundraiser requests. We didn't have any that came in. I just need to sign this, is that correct?
Yeah, we can do that.
That's just,
So
it was already
SIC
approved.
approved that, but these guys have to.
Okay.
Send that, right?
We've not done that. She sent this to me too. Okay.
So
So this is, I'm just going to say this and then I will also send it via email. This is just a request for the lacrosse team to do a travel tournament in the spring. SIC just approved it and so Jen sent this over to me just a second ago. So we need to approve this.
What are they doing?
Those were submitted, I think they're doing the oranges and they're doing.
Oh.
Yeah.
this is the travel request.
Yeah, this is just a travel request.
Overnight.
It's an overnight one, yeah. So, do I send this around? Or do I just?
How about you just tell us what it says, like how much does it cost per student?
It's $700 per student. There are 50 students going. It is, I mean, it's 2 nights. They are going to San Diego.
Bus or flying?
Bus. Actually, April 3rd to the 7th, not tonight, sorry. Yeah, Team Bonding, for the program. That's a 70. Just
Is it 5 school days?
That's spring break, isn't it?
Oh, it is, it's spring break.
That's fine, okay.
Yes. Jen's in this.
I think they did this last year, something very similar last year. And sometimes that makes it easier for people to go, okay, we understand that they know how to do this and whatever, so.
And I do, they did have a lot of funds that they raised in the fundraisers that we all raised last month, like a lot. So I feel like
Since it's already funds.
The funds are being paid for students. And they got like $40,000 from the funds.
Well, I make a motion to.
I second the motion.
Okay, do we want to vote on that?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, great. Good job. I will sign those. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll move on to the discussion portion. We'll go ahead and start with James. We'd like to welcome James. He's here from the district. Thank you.
Well, first I want to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing me to come and talk to the SCC. Love working with East. There's a lot of amazing things that happen at East, and so we're here for a purpose, and that is to share with you the amazing news. Okay, so I'm here. Dr. Christina Thuet, also will be presenting with me. So let me just kind of give you a little bit of a background information. First of all, I've been in the district for over 20 years, and actually I worked at East High School as an assistant principal, then at Bryan, Benyon, Northwest, Jordan, Granite, different school districts as well. And today I'm here to just briefly talk to you a little bit about this incredible opportunity that we have, that we're putting a clinic at West High School with mental health support. And I'll really turn that time over to Dr. Thuet to talk a little bit about that. But let me give you the background information for why we're doing this. When I was at East High School, when I was an assistant principal there, every day we would hear about students needing extra support. When I look at this data that Dr. Thuet put together, Utah has the 6th highest suicide rate in the United States. 657 Utahns died by suicide in 2020, making the 8th leading cause of death in Utah. Number 1 cause of death in Utahns aged 20 to 24. Second leading cause of death for Utahns aged 25 to 34. 42 Utah teens died in 2019. 9.3 Utah teens attempted suicide in 2019. And so as I look at the stats, this is just a small, just information I'm sharing with you. But as I've been able to work with students K-12, that there are so many challenges that we face as school administrators, teachers, parents, every day when our kids are coming to school. I'm really happy that you guys are here, because I'm telling you, our kids today, when they come into our schools, they need that extra. They need that extra. And one thing that happens is that, about a year ago, Dr. Robinson, who's not here, Jeff Robinson, who's, I believe, one of his children, one of his sons or daughters attend East High School, right? Yes. And he approached me and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about having a clinic at a high school?" I was like, "Well, that sounds interesting, And he said, "But also we could maybe work with mental health and provide and have some therapists, firsthand working right in the schools, providing opportunities for our students to have, this opportunity at the school." And I was like, "That sounds like an interesting idea, but we already have clinics. We have Glendale, Liberty, and Rose Park. These are clinics that are already in place in our elementary schools. We call them community learning centers. And Salt Lake City School District really leads not only the state, but the nation, including these community learning centers with clinics in schools." So when that happened, it was great, because I felt like we had the background. We had the partnership we already have with the University of Utah. And the second thing, we had the professionals who wanted to do it and the partners. So I'm going to ask Dr. Thuet right now to briefly share, because we have limited time. But the idea came from Dr. Robinson, and we, did an amazing job in finding Dr. Thuet, and she came on board And I'm telling you, we are so excited because right now, we're in the process of renovating West High School, the basement of West High School. That's going to be the first clinic in the nation that provides this type of opportunity and support for our students. So, Dr. Du, if you don't mind taking a few minutes to talk a little bit about the clinic.
Thank you guys so much for having us today. We're really excited about this opportunity. And one of the reasons we wanted to talk to the SCC for East as well as for Highland is that while this clinic will be located in West High School, it is not isolated to the students of West High School. And so we are envisioning that this will be a service offered to Salt Lake City School District high school students. This clinic is on target to open in February. This has been an incredibly fast process. I think from the time I joined the project to the clinic opening will be a total of 2 years. So it has been a tremendous effort by high school principals. Pam was actually part of our driving force in getting the school board to sign off on this concept at all a few years ago when we went to them. And as we've developed this clinic, we kind of looked around the country to see what other high school clinics had in terms of their models and what we thought we could do better. So Utah is late to game on having high school based care. We're one of the last states in the country, actually. But the benefit of that is that we got to see what's working well and what's not working and what others wish they had and start from scratch. So this clinic will be a University of Utah Department of Pediatrics clinic. It'll be staffed by pediatricians from the University of Utah, including myself. I am the medical director of that clinic, but I'm also the director of school-based health development for the University of Utah. So as being the medical director, I have developed and grown this clinic, and so I have a lot invested in it being successful. We knew that we wanted to offer services such as acute kind of sick visits. So a kid has strep throat or a sore throat and they want to find out, do they have strep throat? Should they be at school? They shouldn't have to miss an entire day of school to go to an appointment for that. Their parents shouldn't have to miss work or find childcare for other kids when they could simply just go in and get a test done at our clinic, find out if they can get back in class or if they need to go home. So that's kind of where we started with offering kind of acute sick care. But then we also wanted to provide a medical home for students who need it. Many students in this district do not have routine medical care. And so this will serve as the medical home for many students, while it will augment or supplement the medical home for others. Many students are also connected in the community with a medical home. I was talking to a pediatrician in the community actually right before this, and she was asking, what is this interface going to look like between community practices and the West High School Clinic? And what we envision for those students is that we can serve as a site for sick, quick type of things. We can also serve as a site for, let's say that someone has high blood pressure and they need to get that checked every 2 or 3 months. Missing school for a day to go get a blood pressure check at their pediatrician's office seems silly when we could do it in our clinic in 15 minutes, get them back out the door and send that information on to their pediatrician. So that's kind of the supplementary services that we'll offer from a pediatric standpoint. We also wanted to develop what we think is going to become the new kind of gold standard of adolescent integrated mental health care. So we have a well-being team at West High, which I believe you guys are in the process of getting a well-being team at East. This is the same group, and so having a well-being team at East will be a great facilitator for additional mental health services that we can offer East students at the West High Clinic. So they provide kind of universal supports. They're in the classroom. They provide kind of resiliency education for students. They provide faculty supports in terms of, I've identified a student who's really struggling. What resources are available? What can I do to help them? And then they also provide group and individual counseling, and that will be within the clinic. From there, students can be identified as needing kind of higher levels of mental health support. In the state of Utah, we have 6 child psychiatrists for every 100,000 children that need to see a child psychiatrist. So as you can imagine, the wait is long. For certain insurance companies, it's impossible, Medicaid in particular, because of the way that our state has structured Medicaid for mental health services. And so we are bringing child and adolescent psychiatrists into this clinic. So the psychologist, the pediatrician, the child adolescent psychiatrist will be sitting next to each other. So we have that collaborative care model that we're providing, an evidence-based care model for how to approach adolescent mental health. And then also one of the things that the high school principals had asked us about was help with substance use and substance abuse. And so we also have an addiction psychiatrist who will be part of this clinic as well. I have to tell you, this is better than what I can give you at any of our other clinics at the University of Utah. So I'm very, very excited about this. Because of your inter-school bus system, that's one of the things that we hope to utilize to get students who we identify maybe through the well-being team, et cetera, as being interested in these services to try to move them amongst the schools to the West High Clinic as families are interested in that. One of my main driving data metrics that I'm looking at is out of classroom seat time. I really want us to show that this model is not only impacting academic success, but helping parents stay at work, helping parents stay home with other children, helping kids stay in school, not only from a not being out for being sick, but also for just having to get these visits done. And so when we implement East and Highland coming into this, that's still going to be a driving force. We still want to limit the amount of time that students are having to be outside of the classroom. So I'm happy to answer questions. I hope that was a quick enough overview, but we're just so excited about this opportunity for the kids at East.
Sounds fantastic. I have a couple questions. One is, with the discussion of potentially rebuilding West, will the basement stay intact, or will those services still be available if we do end up having to move?
Well-
It just seems with those two high schools being the ones being rebuilt, I'm surprised, I'm curious why it wasn't for the East. And my other question is, if in the strategic plan, is there expansion, or is it just constantly just the idea of busing the other two high schools to West?
So that's a great question. So the first question, we know that even if we were to rebuild West High School, won't happen for the next 5 to 8 years, possibly 10 years. Okay. In the meantime, we're losing kids every day. We have kids that need that extra support. Our goal is, and Rick, you're here, Brian, you're here. I appreciate you guys. You guys have been fantastic. The one from the foundation board member, the district board member, when those questions actually came out early. And one of the things that we talked about is this is a model that we hope that will be part of the new building as well. So this is great because it'll give us an opportunity for us to see what we're doing, and then also potentially go to East and Highland expand, because we know that we want to make sure that as a pilot, this can be done well, and then also for the future, we can create a sustainability plan that's part of the new building if we need to. Yeah. Yes.
So what will the criteria be to access these services? Is it an income-based criteria, or?
That's a great question. So the criteria to access the services, we want this to be available for all students, regardless of insurance status, regardless of ability to pay. So James and I have been pounding the road to find funding to completely cover the operational costs of this clinic. So what we are approaching this with is we are going to cover the cost of all the staff that are there. We will bill insurances that we can. Across the country as a whole, that typically generates only about 40% of the operating cost of school-based clinics. They are never a profitable endeavor. They are typically a mixed funding model, whether it's state grant funding, federal funding, commercial payers, and then philanthropic as well. So we will bill where we can, but we don't want high deductibles, co-pays, no insurance, Medicaid, immigrant status, any of those things to come into play for students. And so in terms of our financial agreement, that will say, like, if you have insurance, we will be billing your insurance. We will not be balance billing anyone. So no money will happen in this clinic whatsoever from my standpoint. If you have Medicaid, you can cover this clinic. If you don't have insurance, you can as well. Select Health I'm working on. We tend to not see eye to eye all the time.
But what I want to say about Select Health and insurance companies, they are thrilled about this pilot program. It's amazing. Last week we met with Senator Escamilla, who actually introduced the bill, to the legislature. And we got 750,000 ongoing for operations, which is incredible. And so that will also help us with in covering some of the costs.
And that also will help us as we move on to expanding, as we get up and running these first couple of years and we find out what is that insurance coverage that we can collect in the state of Utah and what gap that gives us. That will show us how much do we need operationally to continue generating to expand to other schools as well.
Yes, and then, yes.
How is it gonna work for the next 5 to 7 years for East High students? I appreciate trying to get kids to classes with placements. And it sounds like a great program, just not knowing how.
My
you're gonna stick
question
in-
piggybacks on
Yeah.
that, which
Are
is
we
a daytime
carpooling
shuttle.
So
Yeah.
this would, so the students typically come to these appointments without their parents. So when you sign up for your child to access the clinic, you're consenting for them to receive these services without you present. It doesn't mean you're not encouraged to be present.
No, I just mean for the kids.
Right, right. So I'm trying to answer your question of that we will have, so parents don't have to take their children to these appointments is what I'm getting to. Because of the inter-school bus system, which we plan to augment, we would offer certain times of the day that we do pickups at Highland. This is a Highland day at the West High Clinic, and so that's the day that we're gonna see those students in the morning. This is a East day in the afternoon, et cetera, to try to have kind of rounds that we have that we can bring students from the school and then get them back through that bus system.
But in the bus system, you're talking about taking a group of kids. So they would have to sit through
So
their
that-
peers.
That would, no, they wouldn't have to sit through them, so they would be running at certain times
Well-
of the day. So it would be like 8 to 10. So 10 o'clock brings the next students and the 10 o'clock kids go back. Does that make sense?
But we also currently have CTE buses that go back and forth. No one knows, the student could be taking welding, could be taking another program at the innovations. The buses are constantly going. And in addition to that, we were able to get bus passes for every student in our district. And west of 300 west, they have what is called on demand. It's almost like Uber, which is incredible. A lot of the kids on the west side have this on demand that the city has spent over $5 million to be able to give access transportation for students to be able to move around, and it's incredible. It's almost it is Uber. It's just a private shuttle for the students. So that's also to help
That
us.
kind of timing and limiting the time at the class is one of the things we're working on developing, because we don't want students to be out of class for the whole day. That defeats the purpose of having this clinic available. So kind of having an inter-school system that picks up kids for the 8 o'clocks and then they get dropped off and then they get picked back up when the 10 o'clock gets dropped off, and kind of circling that way so that it's small sets of time. But that's still kind of in the works to make that formalized and efficient. That's one of the things that we'll learn as the clinic opens in February, is what is that pathway going to look like?
All right, so I'm just so thrilled about this opportunity, only because I know that our students at East, who haven't been there at East in for many years, working with our students, the need is there. Today, I've heard parents, they call, they say, listen, I need to go see a therapist. There's a waiting list for months. They go to primary children's, they go over there, they sit there for 12 hours and they visit with them for a few minutes and they get sent home. The reality is that we're in a crisis. And as we're in this situation, we are providing opportunities for our students to receive the services they need and the support they need. We can't do this alone. We need them. We'll be communicating. We'll do a very effective marketing, campaign, so everybody's aware of what the process is. So parents understand the consent agreement, making sure we're working with both UVU legal, which is very challenging. We have to go through that whole process, right? And then also we have our district legal that also we work both together to ensure that we we're protecting students' privacy, we're working with FERPA, HIPAA, all of those policies to ensure our students are supported. But we want to, we're visiting with the SCC here today. We're also meeting with Highland SCC. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're aware. And as we begin to bring out all the marketing material, we'll come back again to make sure everybody's aware of our process. And that, that as you're referring to students, you'll know where to go. It doesn't matter how much money people have. The reality is there's a huge waiting list. Money doesn't, it's about providing those resources. And when I work with counselors, the counselors are always asking for more resources, and this is a great opportunity for them. Also, the same thing for our principals that receive those calls. And so I want to thank you as, for the work that you guys do, and thank you to our board, both boards, representing and a lot of their support. We've had to do a lot of the campaign to be able to go out and find the dollars to build this clinic. We're renovating that clinic at West right now. If we need some extra help, we may be coming to you. But I think we've covered all the costs right now, and we're excited for that. So
We can invite you guys for a walkthrough once the clinic is finished in early February as well. And my email was on that paper that's circulated here. If you can share it. Any thoughts or comments, like your guys' input is so valuable, especially coming from the other schools that will be coming into this. I really, really value it. So please email. I'm happy to have a conversation or just hear your thoughts. I really appreciate your efforts at this for your kids.
Rick? This has been exciting. It's been in the works for over a year, and we've been excited to see, especially Dr. Robinson, Dr. Dewitt put this together, and James has worked hard. There will be a lot of questions which we haven't even thought of yet. So your questions and your potential criticisms, as long as they're facing the right way, are extremely welcome. We don't want to know why this won't work. We want to see what obstacles we're going to have and be able to overcome them, because this is something that everybody wants to work. And we want it to work for every child. So please help us get it right.
Thank you
so much. Sounds amazing. Help with all this, and it will be great to have you back again, because I'm sure that there will be more questions and follow up and everything, and I'm sure we'll have a walkthrough. So thank you so
I'll
much.
leave
Sounds
some
very
extra
exciting.
copies for you.
Great,
Thank you
perfect.
guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have some students who are here with us. Cedar McDonald is here to represent youth court, and so we will turn the time over to she and her fellow members.
I'm Miss Arrington, or Elise Arrington. I teach at East High School. I teach language arts and reading. And I'm the advisor for youth court. I started youth court. I proposed it to our SCC many years ago in 2018. And we've had so many of the members that you see here today have been on youth court since they were freshmen or sophomores. And I'm actually really glad that we're going after James and discussions about health and mental health and our students' well-being, because that's something that youth court is really concerned about too. We know that there's a mental health crisis. We also know that there's just a crisis of keeping kids in school, right, with attendance and other things, that factors that pull them away. And that's what youth court is all about. So I'm going to do less of the talking and let students do more of it.
Hi, so hello members of the SCC board. We are the Youth Court Presidency, the Justice Program at East High School, looking to support students through restorative justice. We receive students who are being considered for suspension and look to the root of their problem and try to solve their problems through that. We do not look to remove the punishment aspect of our school system. Our goal is to come up with a more constructive solution rather than just suspending someone and further isolating them from the school community. There's a lot of data that we've found that shows that when someone is suspended from school, they are way less likely to return to school. And because of that, they are way less likely to graduate from high school. There's also a lot of data supporting that when someone is suspended from school, they're actually more likely to go to prison later in life and fall more into the cycle of the justice system. We not only hold court for students who get sentences for rule breaking, but we also let students tell their side of the story. so we can know how to best help them and help them truly take away a lesson from their situation. We believe in giving back what is taken, and with our program, students give back what they took from the school community. This can look like many things, and these are all examples that we have done and things that we have participated in during this program. It can be as simple as a conflict resolution between a student and a teacher. It can be weekly lesson plans against vaping, personalized to the student's schedule and making sure that they truly get a lesson from that. Or it can be an attendance tracker that requires parent or guardian involvement. Our main goal is keeping kids in school and breaking the cycles that they fall into, and making our community more unified by repairing relationships all through restorative justice. One of my favorite stories from being on youth court was from last year. We had a kid come in who was in a situation where he was a 4.0 student. He was an extremely good student, but he got into a tough situation. And he was in the wrong partially, but he also had his side of the story to share. Because he came to youth court, he was able to get suspension off of his permanent record, and he now has a full ride scholarship to the U. And his future wasn't put in jeopardy because of one simple mistake that he made. This is one of my favorite stories just because he was able to continue with his future and he's now more successful than ever. And I think he really did learn from that. We've also had a lot of kids. We take care of a lot of freshmen because a lot of freshmen come in and they make mistakes in high school. It's your first year of high school, you make mistakes. And a lot of these kids, because of youth court, they feel like they have more of a connection to the school and they feel like they have a teacher in their corner. In this case, Miss Arrington and Miss Wilson, who aren't here today, they're our school advisors. Oh, I'm here today. Yeah, you're here. No, sorry, Miss Wilson is here today. But they a lot of times feel like they have a connection to those teachers now, and they feel like they have a teacher in the corner, which is really what we're trying to do with connection to the community.
And while Carolina brings this up, we're just gonna pass around a copy of the school.
You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm Sophia.
I'm Carolina.
And that's you.
And so has been brought up in previous meetings recently that youth court is still part of the school matrix of the Beast Matrix, but we need more administrative support to carry out this program to its fullest. We need systems that are restorative, that are bringing people back into the schools instead of pushing them out with suspension and isolating them in that way. And it is important to mention that this type of work has been done in other places other than just East and here. And it has been carried out in other states, like the Bronx, New York, by our very own Miss Arrington. And that school ultimately had a restorative-based school system, and all classrooms and places of learning were based off this restorative way of thinking. And Miss Arrington will now share some statistics and restorative justice.
Okay, well, I don't have like the facts and figures in front of me, but I do have those available if you guys want some research and data to support what we're saying. I started our youth court program at East. I also, before coming to East, I started our youth court program at my high school that I taught at in the Bronx in New York City. And it was a labor of love. It was a program that took a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of school-wide support. But by the time I left that school and moved to Utah, we had a completely restorative framework. I think when we first started, and this was a brand new school, it was a small school, but when we first started, we had a suspension rate. I mean, I think we had, 40 something like that suspensions in 1 year even. And by the time I left after 7 years, we had limited that number of suspensions to 4. So it was incredibly successful. It doesn't mean that students weren't still getting into trouble. As teenagers are wont to do, that still happens. But we had a system of support. We had a system that kept kids in the school, as Carolina pointed out, and Sophia, that there's research to show the correlation between the number of high school suspensions and the likelihood of a student graduating from high school. The number of suspensions a student has and the likelihood of them graduating, as those numbers change as it goes up, their likelihood goes down. Furthermore, on top of that, there's a strong correlation between dropout rates and later on incarceration rates. So there's a cycle, right? There's a step, there's a process there. So our goal is to make the jobs easier of our administrators by helping to share that load. It's hard to have conversations with every single student when they mess up, when they do something that's not showing their best self. So we want to take that burden off of them and facilitate those conversations, because as you guys probably know, parents of kids, they listen to other kids more than they listen to us. So to have someone who's their age, who's their peer, who they might see in the hall, they might see in classes, if they're friends and they have a close relationship, they recuse themselves, they step out of a court case if there's a conflict of interest or if they can't be unbiased.
But the response, I think more often than not, we have students who complete their dispositions 100%. We also have students who then say, I want to join youth court. So that to me is like the biggest affirmation that we're doing something right when we have students that not only, come to youth court, they show up. We were holding our cases after school, and that became to be a little bit too hard. That was too much time. It was hard when we had people playing softball and other commitments that they needed to get to. But we had students who showed up, took time out of their day to be there, and then followed through on their dispositions, whether it was working with the janitor to help clean up some of the things that they messed up, whether it was facilitating conversations and mediations between students. There's been an uptick in racial slurs in schools across the state. I just read a Black Lives Matter statement today about how that is happening more rampantly. And that we have already, just last year, we had 2 cases about racialized language and hate speech, and how we held a mediation, held a circle. So instead of doing a court case for that, we held a circle where we sat and we looked at each other. We had a script that we followed. We had a process we followed. We hope to facilitate those conversations so students were able to understand what was wrong about what they did, apologize, and then put back into that relationship with the community what was taken by using that language in the first place.
Thank you, Ms. Arrington.
Oh, yes, of course.
For those of us that aren't familiar with what a youth court is, could you explain kind of what the process used to, like maybe give us an example of a typical incident, what the process used to be, and then what the process with the youth court, how that's different?
Sure. You want me to talk about it? You want to take it?
So basically, typically what a case for us will look like is a student will get in trouble. We cannot handle cases that are involved with actual police, that are involved with actual criminal charges. That is completely off the table for us. We are involved in school-centered things, so things that stay within our school system, that's what we can be involved in. Typically, a case will happen. It can be referred to us by a teacher, it can be referred to us by an administrator. Right now, one of the main things we're asking for is a more direct line to be able to refer cases, because right now it's not so much of a direct line, it's harder to get cases for us and to help kids. But typically a case will be referred to us. We will look over the case. We will decide as like our group, like whether we think we are able to take this case and whether we think us taking this case will be constructive for that student. If we decide that, then what will typically happen is we'll contact that student and say, hey, what date will work for you? We want to make sure that it works for you. We're not taking super much out of your time. Then we will assign that student a representative. So it's basically kind of like a real court where we have that student has an actual representative from youth court who's representing them and hears their side of the story. We also have a public defender that represents the school. So basically represents what that student did wrong and how that student harmed the school. We also have a judge that keeps track of basically making sure that there's order in the court and making sure that there is a system that is happening. We also have a jury, which is basically who decides what the disposition is going to be, and decides what that student is going to have to do for that situation. And we also have opportunities for the student to speak on their own behalf, to basically say what they saw from their perspective. Depending on the case, we will have opportunities for, if there is a specific victim or someone who was directly affected by it, then we will have opportunities for that person to speak. Sometimes it's just directly towards the school, like in situations with vaping or like graffiti. That is more so like just directly towards the school, so we don't have that as much. And then typically what will happen is we'll give them a disposition, and like she said, I think majority of our dispositions have been fully followed through. And so the other current system is that a student will be will be caught making a mistake, something like that. They will be sent to admin and they will be reported for that mistake. And often they are directly suspended right after, without much talk or without much discussion of what that student did wrong, or much discussion of how they can fix it, mainly because there are so many suspensions and it's hard for admin to take the time out of their time to do that. It's hard. It's a lot of time to sit down with every single student that you're considering for suspension and say, hey, what happened? You know what I mean? It's a long process. So we're trying to take the load off of admin and we're trying to make sure it's more disruptive.
And building off of what she said here, kind of like how she's mentioning, we have specific roles similar to public defendants, similar to prosecutors, as if in a real court, but they are replaced with different titles. So the defendant for the student is known as the youth advocate, and the youth advocate gets to know the correspondent before the case and kind of create an established kind of personal connection with that student before the actual court hearing, as we call them. And then The community advocate, like Sophia was mentioning, their role is to represent the school community and really explain and help the student understand what they did wrong to the school community. So it's similar to a court case. It's essentially like a court hearing, but with kind of different names and titles to kind of help the student feel more comfortable. So there's not a prosecutor or like lawyers involved. It's just advocates. So
I feel like it's important to mention that it's not a slap on the wrist either. Like while
Yeah.
jury asks questions, so that student in the very case reflects on what's happening and why they did that. And they're reflecting more on it as more than they would than if they were suspended and were most likely sitting in the room doing nothing for a week.
I don't know if this is a question for you or for Pam, but how many suspensions and expulsions do we have?
No one gets expelled from school. Just gets suspended. I don't have my computers in the car. I don't know how many, but we haven't had a lot of problems this year, really, so far. But over the years, I could give you numbers of suspensions. And I just gotta say that my assistant principals are mostly new. And so I don't think that they have a good understanding of what you all do. And I also am not sure, and I know they don't know how to refer things to you. I know they don't know that, and mostly because they're new. I think there's been a lot of really good communication since I've been at East, but there's just been so many changes that it's been hard to keep up, that I would love to have some catch up to my new people.
Yeah. And I don't want to speculate about what happens, the conversations that admin have with students. I'm sure there's that reflective conversation as well, but we also recognize that the number of things that are happening, it's the bandwidth, it will exceed the bandwidth. I just want to bring it back to the legal side of things, or more like legislative. HB 239 that was passed in 2018 gave schools the opportunity to intervene with students who commit Class C misdemeanors instead of referring them to law enforcement. Some Class C misdemeanors, common ones at the school level, are disorderly conduct, minor altercations, vandalism, as we said. I'm sure vaping is in there now. I don't know if it was at the time because now it's so big. So they can do that before referring to law enforcement, before expulsion, or before suspension. It puts the weight. I think it's an opportunity to schools to provide alternative diversion programs such as a youth court, and making school-based referrals as incidents occur. So there is a legal precedent in our legislature to support having more school-based, and we're different than peer court. If you guys are familiar with peer court, I was on peer court when I was in high school, and that was kind of where my love for just like trying to intervene before students get to that into the justice system began. But what I like about youth court versus peer court, and no offense to peer court, I talk to their representatives regularly, is we keep it local. We keep it in-house. When a student messes up in the school and they go to peer court, they might be referred to Big Brothers Big Sisters. They might be referred to Habitat for Humanity. They might have, community service that's somewhere else in the community instead of at East High School. And we want students to see the consequence, right away. Oh, you were vandalizing on the wall? Well, guess what? Now you're going to work with Artemio, our awesome custodian, and you're going to start to clean off some of that graffiti, right? So it localizes it. It keeps kids in the building. It keeps them in school, and I think it limits that feeling of being kicked out.
I don't know if you guys could tell me this or not. I don't know what the jurisdiction is, but how many cases have you heard this year? Zero.
We haven't had funding for the last 2 years to take cases.
And then just kind of asking that, like, I know you said you don't know, but like how many, could you like estimate how many have been suspended?
For last year.
Last year, this year.
We had 2 last week.
Yeah, we had 2 last week, and I know we've had some for vaping and stuff. I would guess 10 this year. Short term. I can, like I said, I can get some information to you, but.
And not all
seems like-
cases are appropriate for youth court, right? If if they are at each other's, if they are really going hard fighting like that, and it's more assault, that's not for us.
It just seems like there's a really big discrepancy between that. Like, I've been talking with kids who were suspended pretty recently. And they were not told at all about youth court in
the process of the.
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
But, and I know that not all
They
cases
just
are
don't-
appropriate.
Yeah, not all are appropriate, but there also has been a, I don't want to even say a lack of understanding, but kind of a lack of understanding about how to, alas. No, it's just been, I don't think my new people know at all. And so we just gotta.
I think it is important, just to point out, we did take multiple cases last year, you know, we have had struggles with funding, but we have taken multiple cases. Last year, we got at least, I think around 12,
Yeah,
13 cases, just to mention, but yes.
And Pam, do you find it's helpful, like, would your administration like to be able to just refer people instead of having to? Yeah,
I know, that sounds great.
so you want this.
So what is it that you guys need to take?
Yeah,
that's what we're about to
we
do.
have this right here for our son. So we have 3 specific requests that are on your handout, but we kind of wanted to elaborate on them a bit more just to explain. The first request that we have is that we propose that the Youth Corps be a connections class at East High facilitated by Ms. Arrington. So last year, we made efforts to try to get Youth Corps on the course catalog for East High School, make it a class. And you know, there was a course code prepared. It was approved by the Utah State Board of Education for a peer leadership class, and SIC did deny that request. So we are asking that by at least allowing Youth Corps to be a connections class, we will just be provided with optimal productivity, meaning we can host and plan cases during this connections time, as well as fulfilling the required connections requirement. And we believe that this is a very reasonable proposition to ask. As the East High Hope Squad also considered a program within the Beast Matrix, as you all saw, they are approved to have their Hope Squad meet during connections period as a connections class, and they are actively utilizing it today. So the East High Youth Corps and Hope Squad are both programs, so we request that they be treated the same and have the same privilege of being a connections class.
One of our biggest things with that is just making sure kids don't miss class. That's one of our biggest things. We had problems last year with, we wanted to schedule kids after school, but a lot of kids take the bus, and you don't want to say, hey, you have to take the later bus and wait an hour after Youth Corps ends to go on that bus. Another big thing was we would have to sometimes, we had teachers who would refer them, and then those teachers would say, hey, you can take them out of my class. Even if the teacher is cooperating with that, it's lame to take a kid out of a class and take them out of class.
I know you guys do.
Yeah,
Olympics
yeah.
as well.
We've also been taken out of class before we do cases and stuff like that. So
So I'm sorry, I'm not quite connecting all of the dots here. So how do you become a connections class? Like, is there some sort of district liaison that approves it, or why are you not? I mean, what is the struggle?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's just more scheduling and making
The
it
Hope
happen.
Squad, how did they?
They asked.
yeah,
Is this the
and
first
we've
time you've
asked,
asked?
no, we've asked,
Okay.
yeah. Beginning, was it last
Last year,
spring? Yeah, we
And
asked, and it was.
the ask went to,
Administration, I think I asked Jen samples.
and
Yeah,
was it tonight or was it just?
it just was.
It was just pushed back, kind of ignored, so that's why we kind of wanted to really making sure that everyone has a really clear understanding of what we do and why it's important we have a connections class before we kind of officially make that there. So that is the first thing that we feel like we need to really carry out this program the best it can be. The second thing that we have is we need consistent funding, so there's money allocated to help develop the program. And we would use this for activities and basic program needs. For example, last year we organized open school community circle ups with free pizza for students, and we discussed issues we cared about in the school community. We also hosted an assembly last year with many influential community members. This included Carol Spackman Moss, David Dominguez, and more. And we were just able to fund, we were only able to fund those activities with generous donations and grants that Ms. Arrington and Ms. Wilson took their time to apply for. And we would just like a consistent funding to help us carry out this program in forms of outreach events and activities, youth court uniforms for professionalism, supplies to carry out sanctions, and just all the other expenses that come with the program. So that is the second thing you can see on your handout. And we have one more thing, which is, yes.
How much do you think you need? How much would you need every year to accomplish that?
So last year we were able to collect, I feel like it covered our needs pretty well. What was the exact number? I think it was about like $2,500, $3,000 from.
I'm not entirely sure.
Grants.
We have been using the like help me on floor like approach. So we did donors choose programs, and I think we got, we had 2 of those funded. I'm not exactly sure what the dollar amount was. And then the pizza for the circle ups was provided by Dr. David Dominguez. He paid for it out of his pocket. And he was happy to do it, but we just wanted to be like, we should do that too, right? Where we should have that ability to do that. I think like what we need, binders, papers, you know, it's really a low cost thing. I think Ms. Wilson and myself taking time out of our days to do it would be great. If we were doing that after school, we paid our hourly rate. We were initially, when we first started the program, we were able to submit time cards for the hours that we would stay after running these programs, taking cases, etc. So it's something that to compensate teachers also for their preparation. I don't have an exact number. I'm bad with numbers. You can ask my husband. And yes,
So the positions that are involved, like the judge, the advocates, I assume those are students. What types of training do they go through?
So we do go through a very extensive training. You can't just join youth court and become a judge.
We all 3 went through extensive training before we start youth court in the year. There's about a 4-week period where it's basically every single meeting is training. Every single meeting is going
You have to
through.
pass a test as well.
Yeah.
yeah, they take the bar exam.
Yeah. Our version of the bar exam, but
We go over things such as like, what is a biased question? What's an unbiased question? What are good questions to ask to elicit more information from a respondent? What is the general procedure of a case? But there's a lot of team building too, because part of the finesse of holding an effective youth court case is being able to kind of read the room and read the people who are there as well. Like, oh, I think Carolina's going to probably tackle this question, so I'm going to stay silent. And there she goes, she's going to step up and ask that. So there's the training of just building the camaraderie, and then there's also the procedural training and the knowing the terms and knowing and brainstorming and thinking of different ideas and stuff.
Cedar, I know you're going to move on to point number 3, but if I could just ask quickly, revisiting the idea of class, how many kids or students are involved in youth court now? Does it constitute enough interest for a class? And with a new SIC chair, is that something we can revisit? And as a follow-up question, I know that some of this is beyond SCC's purview, but I also know what is the deadline for approving new classes? Because I know the SCC does need to approve classes. So I'm curious if there are any that are being proposed that we are going to be discussing. And in that realm, it seems like it is appropriate for us to be talking about whether there should be a class and whether we as parents or as a community would support something like that. So some questions maybe for Pam or.
The deadline for submitting the proposals is tomorrow, I believe, and then the SIC will look at all proposals next Tuesday.
And then what's your deadline for us to approve? It seems like it was in the fall
This
last
is a
year.
district deadline. We are going to approve the classes on Tuesday, and then they will come to SCC. Everything needs to be approved before we start printing the catalog. So if there's a new class, it has to go.
So
into-
this meeting next month will be
Correct.
seeing.
Yes, at the latest.
Are you guys going to submit a proposal again?
we're gonna try to, yeah.
Before tomorrow?
I guess we are.
And to answer your first question really fast, there is definitely enough interest to constitute there being a whole connections class. I know there are tons of people who have reached out in interest of joining youth court. We've just had to tell them we need to establish what we're doing this year, meet with the SCC, make sure we have everything put together before we really start adding more. But I would say as of right now, our club altogether probably has at least 15.
I'd say 15 to 20.
15 to 20 students who are going and would commit completely if there was a period designated like connections to go there.
So for connections, Pam, is that a decision that you can make or what's holding up that idea?
Well, there's a lot of things around it. We generally just kind of for the last couple of years, we put people in classes and the idea was they're going to stay with a teacher however many years. So if they were freshmen, they would be with that teacher for 4 years, or if they started later, So because there's been a couple of people that have said, well, I want all of my team, all of my tennis team, or whatever, in my class. But then all the other students who've been there for a few years, then they're like kicked out. So I know that seems kind of dumb, but if you're connected with the teacher and then the teacher's like, well, sorry, you gotta go somewhere else, then it just, there is some discord that could be created. So that's one thing, just from the model that we started with. And there are like, I think, you know, special ed teachers a lot of times have their specific students they work with all the time in their class, which makes sense. But then in general, it's been kind of a mix of all grades and all kids. That's not that it couldn't be changed in certain instances, but that's just how we envisioned it.
When was the Hope Squad Connections class?
Well, I just tried to check and I'm not sure that, I don't have verification that that's really happening. So I have to check on that.
Yeah, well,
So-
Hope Squad was around before Connections was a class that we created, so I think it was like just an easy.
So it could have
Shift.
grandfathered in, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, before the general thing.
Well, it sounds like the idea of a class would resolve a lot of issues.
Well, yeah, 40 minutes isn't very, that's another thing, like with a group that wants to do a whole lot, that was something that I thought of too, with a couple of groups. Well, you guys need more than that.
Our cases are usually less than 30 minutes. We try to make them short. We try to
They're
make sure.
usually around 20 minutes, yeah, and I mean, we do realize that 40 minutes isn't the most adequate amount of time. But we're just trying to think of what's attainable right now, considering
Well, kids would
our
be there.
previous denial.
That's-
Well, and we
that's-
could, if we
that's-
don't have a case, we could take a walk through the halls.
Or use that time for preparation.
Exactly.
Or for
Absolutely, yes,
training,
that's what I'm
or for meeting,
Yeah.
or planning.
And some of my youth work, or some of my Connections kids said, oh, because I told them this might be a possibility last year, and they said, oh, it looks like I'm joining youth work. And I said, cool, all right. So a lot of them were like, I guess I'll just join and stay in your Connections class, so.
Do you
that would be
have what
awesome.
you need to do the
I'm glad you
application?
told me that.
I have the one that I used last year. Like, so, yeah,
Let's make
So
sure
which,
that.
which would you prefer, class or Connections?
both. I mean, yeah, I mean, both would be awesome. if We could take cases during Connections, but,
You could take cases during a class, right?
yeah, but then we'd be pulling kids out of an academic class
Yeah, then
versus
it's
a
harder
Connections
During
class,
the-
which is a little easier. They're not gonna miss out on, points and things like that.
Although I have to say, as a parent of someone on youth court, you at least take care of that issue for everyone who's involved in youth court, you know? And maybe coming out of class is a little bit of part of just what you give up when you break a rule or whatever, but at least it takes care of that side.
So in the interest of time, do you want to follow up with this? Like, what do you need from us? If you guys are going to do a proposal for a class, is it like something that we could follow up on? Are you asking for SCC budgeted funds for the $2,500 or?
So, well, leading into our third point just a little bit, we just want something we just want more support for it to be pushed into the school. We've had some issues with certain teachers not wanting to support youth court and they don't enjoy the idea of restorative justice, but if it is in the matrix, it does need to be supported by teachers if it's in the matrix. And so we have specific suggestions for this of things that the SCC can at least just support. Because right now a lot of what our program needs is just a lot of support, or at least just voice. And one idea that we have is there are lots of organizations, local organizations, including Stand for Kind, that provide free restorative justice trainings for schools across the state of Utah, which help teach teachers how to integrate restorative justice principles within the classroom. And there's just a lot of options for this. So that's kind of our third point that we have down here. But yeah, like we were saying, we left our contact info down there at the bottom of our thing. This was kind of just an intro to some things that we care about and wanted to talk about more. It's just important to us that youth court gets that. I mean, we're gonna probably work on that proposal. We've just kind of been met in the past, kind of just with not as much
Support, it's kind of like a brick wall of like judgment.
just a little bit of, and so just support funding, I don't know, are all things we can talk about more in the future or with those emails at the bottom, but it's just more so issues that we really care about. We just want youth court to be, I mean, it's the first term, we just really want it to be able to carry out and change as much as it can, like it was able to for students last year.
These are all seniors, so the fact that you have seniors who aren't gonna be here next year, trying to make this course or this class or this program spread in the, for future generations is pretty incredible to me too. Yeah, I did not
For
write.
students and for advocates. Way to go. I'm sure there's so much to be learned on both sides. So way to go. That's awesome. Good job. I know, do you know how to do it? so much. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna quick turn the time over to Pam because she has to leave in like 2 minutes. Oh my gosh. Pam, pick like 1 or 2.
Okay,
Your
so
highlights.
okay, so first of all, on the agenda, I've been working with the district, student services people to get sharp survey data for you, because we talked about it last month. And all they have published right now is the whole like county, the whole high level data, which is really, really helpful. But when you don't have your data to compare with it, it's not as helpful. So in fact, Stacy, who's over all the counselors, texted me just like at the beginning of this meeting. She's like, I can't figure out if the data's out yet. I've been trying. I knew you wanted it. So it was really nice of her to do what she could to get it for us.
But they do have it and provide it.
Yeah, they
At some
provide it.
point,
And it's a gorgeous, like it's published and it's an online thing. And so I have like I said, I have the bigger data set. And it's easy to read and they have really good explanations and it'll be good to get to you guys.
So do we have that?
I could, but it's probably something we want to talk through together too. So we could email out the county one because I got that. She had that. She emailed it to me. So let me get that to you. Sure. And we will get that out.
It'd be so great to look at that and then see how it changes after programs like this
Yes.
or the health clinic or, you know.
Yeah. So it basically measures risk factors for our students and protective factors for our students. And so it's very, very interesting. And they've done it a long time and it's incredible data that comes from it. Okay, so that was my explanation for that, because I really thought all of that was already published and it isn't. So, okay, the other 2 things I have for you are they're gonna have a lot of conversation, which it's honestly, like, you guys know the open house for the weapon system is tonight and it's at 6 o'clock. I'll be back. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is the attendance policy. And we've had some conversations about that already. But so what I decided that would help you guys maybe is I made copies of the email that I sent to the staff on Sunday. I do like a Sunday email and we talk about whatever. This basically, the whole thing is about, there's the invitation, is about basically where we are with the attendance policy, where we have problems, where we're waiting to have Sam help fix computer-wise and programming-wise, and just some things that we found out. So I would like you to read this because it's not information that's been shared with any parents, but it's probably about time. But there is a lot on there that is around. So that's that. So what I would ask you to do for that is look through that and you can come talk to me, or we can definitely talk about it next month. I'm hoping by next month. The biggest problem, and I'll just tell you one thing. The biggest problem is that our attendance people, especially because everyone's getting so good at calling in attendance, they're a couple days behind. So here's the continuum of attendance. And so if the kid's going along and they get their like 4th tardy in a class and the computer says, ding, we're in a hold and maybe they should talk to someone. But then 2 or 3 days later, attendance kind of catches up and a lot of the things maybe that the student had as absences or late are fixed. The program can't look forward and backward yet. And Sam didn't even think about that. When we realized that was a problem, he was like, oh, so if kids get, like say a kid's in the hospital and they have 3 days that they were missing. Well, they get out of the hospital, everything's okay. The parent says, oh, here's my attendance and here's all the, please excuse my child. But they were already on hold. And the computer can't say, oh, all this got excused and now they're not on hold. So that's something that we're trying to fix. And that's a big deal. So because of some of those big deals, there's not really been any kind of negative consequences for kids, except they have to come talk to us or talk to their counselors when they want to get off hold. And they want to have some of their things fixed before they become really big problems. And to go to what our students were saying, when students are missing too much school, a lot of times they feel they can't, and this has nothing to do with suspension, it's just they're missing school. Can you help me with that? And these, well, no, we're gonna do that one. If they are missing a lot of school and they get discouraged, and other things are going on. And when they're not in school, sometimes they're doing things they shouldn't be doing, or maybe they get into some trouble. I think that's the thing that really leads to negative outcomes for kids. When they're in school, things tend to be okay. When they're not in school, lots of other things happen, which is why us as a body and the faculty last year said, boy, what is West doing? We want to try that. We want to try something similar to that. And we did. And we're now, this is our 5th week of having the ability to look at absences and tardies for kids. And it hasn't been very long. Thank you. So that's where we are with that. Kids, I think, that are coming in feel pretty empowered to say, because I'll say, like this kid the other day, I'm like, so why are you on hold? He's like, I was late for 4 times for my math class. And I'm like, oh good, and I look it up. Yeah, you were late 4 times. So we set a really simple goal, like let's go a whole week and you're not gonna be late for math class and we'll take you off hold. They're generally short, some are even a day. Let's get to every single class, no tardies, don't miss a class for 1 day, and I'll take you off hold. And they help say that, yeah, I can do that. Okay, then do it. And then they're off hold and we fix it in the computer. But there haven't been any really things that kids have missed out on because they're on hold. But we can find them sooner and try to address something that's going on with them that maybe we wouldn't have found out about until they were getting a 10-day drop letter. And that's not helpful at all. So it's our way of finding problems before they're problems.
I just love the conversation part of it.
The
So
conversation
valuable.
is so helpful. And you know what? They go to student services hands them a contract that says, who's your counselor? And they do. And then they go, okay, it's not my counselor. Now what do we want to do, or what do we want to talk about? And it's not, I know it's not,
So I
it's
just
not
wanna know one
perfect.
thing.
Yeah.
Can parents have any input at some point, or is it just a-
We are in a testing phase.
Oh my God, it's been the biggest nightmare of my life.
Yeah,
I love it.
Guys,
Well,
I
I
would just
understand.
point out that I have a 4.0 GPA. I am a voting member of the SCC, and I am currently on activity hold. It's not like it's punishing the worst kids. I don't know a person who isn't on activity hold right now.
It's not even half this, but it's a lot. It's a lot of kids. But
Yeah, and
My
I'm wondering.
experience with it is when she didn't know she's on activity hold.
I did not
Went
receive
into
an
the
email until she went to go pay my AP fees and was told at the office.
So no, I went into the office to ask about it. Nobody could tell me. I was in the office today for 2 hours.
you talked to Ron, right? You talked to Ron
Yes,
too.
I talked to Ron for an hour. I have had at least an hour of Mr. Ware's time. They can't figure out what to do.
Are
They
you saying
can't
you're
figure
not
out.
late? or
So
missing classes?
I was late to Mr. Ware's class, so I'm on activity hold, and
So
I was late.
yeah, she's been late. Nobody can get it removed. Nobody knows what to do.
And they were, and my mom wanted to excuse the lates because it was for a valid reason that I was late, but because it's happened 10 days after me being late, she can't excuse it. The policy is overly harsh because it makes lates the harder thing to correct than absences.
Absences.
All
So,
of my
no,
friends,
this is
if
my
they're,
solution.
if they're late to
If
class,
we can't
they're just missing.
Look at the late policy and the new attendance policy and streamline the late policy. I'm going to tell her if she's late to not go to class.
People are already doing that. All of my friends, they
Because
say
I
they
can
miss,
excuse an
if they miss the
absence,
first
but
2
I
minutes in
can't
class.
One at
they're
a time,
absent.
you guys. One at a time. So we want to hear.
I can excuse an absence with a new policy. I cannot excuse a late.
You can in the morning, and this is our thinking about this. And like I
That
said,
needs to
we're
change.
early.
I understand
That's
that.
an issue. If you can only, if only parents can go into
Daisy,
student services. to
There's a
excuse
thing.
them.
You don't have to
Daisy,
go in.
can
You
I
don't have to
please-
go in.
You need to streamline it. I can't, I can tell you, it's gonna blow up in your face. I am telling my kid, I'm telling any of their friends. I'm late.
But then they miss all the instruction in a test or whatever.
Yep,
I,
but it's gonna
that-
be more in, more.
will you write me an email about specifically the
I have
late
written
stuff?
to you and you do not respond.
I don't have an email from you about this.
Not about this. Ron has plenty and he's gone back and forth, spending hours of both Mr. Ware's time and
Okay, so,
Ron's time.
so Mr. Literal has been helping you with Mr. Ware and the charts. I'm saying, well, on a bigger, like you're saying that other kids have, I'm saying you have to email me, and I know, we've talked before, we've emailed before, so I know you know how to get a hold of me. But if there are specific things about lates, then we need to talk about that.
Make
We
them
can talk about
excusable by parents. Parents should be able to excuse their kid for being late. That's it, that's all. That's the one caveat you need to include.
I thought you said that. They
No,
didn't.
no, you said that.
You said if a student is late, say you go to the dentist and you get the dentist says, here's your paper. You bring that in when you get to school and that excuses you from being late.
Right.
Or a
But if,
parent note.
if I go in the next day, I can't excuse her for being late.
We can talk about that. That could be a
No,
little.
we can talk about that right here in front of everybody.
No.
Parents need to be able to excuse their kid from being late. End of
Okay.
story.
No, I
For
hear
as
you.
long as they need to. Give them 2 weeks if they need to. Sometimes it takes me 2 weeks to figure it out, what's going on in each child. Honestly, that's how bad the communication is between administration and parents. You need to
Sorry that you
take
feel that way.
this message to the bank. Parents need to be able to excuse lates. End of statement. That's what I need.
And the one thing that I have found helpful is I have, Power School app, and it notifies me when they get.
I
marked.
have the
You
Power
have
School
that? Okay. So you do know when, as soon as it gets put in, like it tells you as soon as you get marked in your turn. Did you know that? So I can help you set that
No.
up.
I haven't set up.
Oh, okay. Maybe what you're saying is it possible to add a feature on the website, like I've used it, where you can do the excusal online?
We haven't.
Do we wanna
have
do
a
that
better
for
thing.
tardies?
All they can do, you can.
That's what I'm saying, do we wanna make that option available for tardies?
Everyone who's a parent. Well, first of all, there's two different things. There's tardy, which is separate from late.
Right, so she's saying she
Oh,
should
right.
get one
For either or, yeah.
I'll check that. I'll check that.
Yeah, do we wanna make that an option where you can do it online?
I think that lates don't be penalized because lates are at this point in time harder to excuse than absences. If a student is late to a class and their parent wants to excuse it, it's harder to excuse that because they have to bring in the slip than it is for the parent to just email online. And so I have so many friends I know that like the minute they're like 2 seconds late to class, they just skip because it's easier for their parent to excuse an absence by just emailing admin or going to the form than it is for their parent to actually come into the school and like bring in a slip or whatever. So I think it's way too harsh to punish for lates. I think that you're in a phase where the whole program is far too disorganized. My homecoming date was put on activity hold, didn't get an email about it. She was told by our theater teacher. And then she went to admin, worked out a contract, followed that contract, was told she was off of activity hold, showed up at homecoming with me, and we were denied, and she had to talk to him. I don't know if she talked to you, but
Yeah.
someone.
Everyone that talked to me, we did something really
Yeah.
easy. Went, okay,
So
no, hop on it.
and she had worked out a contract and followed it, and she was marked as being on activity hold.
There's issues. Well, one of my librarian found yesterday or the day before that there's a yes and a no on activity hold and a blank. And she tested several times and said, if you put no, it still puts them on there. Like Sam missed that. If there's any characters in the thing, it was marking them as on hold, even when you were saying they were off hold. So, and he knows about that. So there's a lot of things we're working. I can also talk to West about, because we've been going on a lot of their things to see what's working and not. We'll find out about what they're doing with late.
If we're in such a native.
That's all I can do right now is tell you I'll work on it. Please let me work on it, okay?
That's
Thank
all,
you.
that's my only request. Parents need to be able to.
And then, and it's, like I said, it's our 5th week since we've had the ability to track this at all. And there's been a lot of things that are not working, but a lot of things that are working. Yeah.
I want to say that my daughter, for the first time in a long time, is really rushing to get to school on time. So I want to raise just a little bit of I'm wondering if parents can easily excuse a tardy, does that diminish this effort, which I really value? It's got to come from the teachers. It's got to come from the school. It's really hard for me to push my 17, 18-year-old to school. So I just want to offer that, there is that. And, there will be parents who are excusing tardies and there will be parents who won't. So then where's the equity there?
That's something that's been brought up very really.
You know, Clayton doesn't allow any excusal of tardies. You can excuse absence. So there's,
That's, I
but
feel like
you're
if
not
you're in
alone
school,
in that.
if you're in school, and unless something really weird, or you go to student services because you feel sick, if you're late for class, you are in school, and we don't want parents to excuse their kids when they're in school. That's the bottom line of where we came from, is that you're already in school. But if there is some big thing, you know.
It's not even tardies. Tardies is like more than 10 minutes late. It's late. I've been less than 10 minutes late to my third period because I'm rushing to get there. And I like run in the door a couple minutes late. I get barred late. Now I'm on activity mode. Like you're punishing.
They're the same. The
Yeah,
program
your
treats.
The program treats them as the same, but I'm not missing any actual learning time there. And it's not like I'm like purposely like, oh, I can miss the first couple minutes of third period. Like kids are rushing to class and going in 2 minutes. I've had conversations with teachers.
So all students have to go to their counselor after they get on activity hold. And so I've talked to a lot of students, and we just brainstorm. You know, I pull it up and make sure that they should be on activity
There are
hold.
mistakes.
And 9 times out of 10, they should be. And they usually tell me exactly why they're on hold. They'll say, because I'm going late or tardy. So I ask them, it's a great conversation.
Yeah.
I ask them, well, why are you late to come to school? And then they say, they'll tell me something. Usually I say, is that fixable? And they go, yeah. I said, well, what's the solution? And they brainstorm with me. It's usually I'll just get up and go earlier, you know, or I'll catch the earlier UTA bus.
That's a great skill to
Yeah.
learn.
So I think it's a very positive thing. It could use some tweaks, and obviously, and we're just learning. But boy, what a great conversation to have. I love them. They take about 5 minutes is all. They come in during their walking time. We're doing the contract with them just to expedite it so that the administration doesn't have to do it. And they've given us a leeway to say, so what I ask them, I say, when's your next activity? When do you need to get off of this so that you're not missing that next activity? And some of them say, well, it's tomorrow's soccer game, or it's next week's.
Yeah.
And so I usually base the goal off of that. Okay, well, let's get you off by then. Let's set up a contract so that if you meet this, all you have to do is go talk to your administrator, and if she's not there, talk to any of the other ones, because they'll do the
Involved
same.
and take kids.
Right.
Yeah, so coaches are really stressing this program with their kids, with teams, which I also think is a good thing. And kids know when they come, oh man, I messed up. But anyway.
No, there's already a grace period built in there because the hold doesn't happen the first time you have an issue. So, I mean, there's a little bit of grace there. If there's an extenuating circumstance, great. But I would, as a parent, invest more time in encouraging my child to be on time because it's respectful for the teacher and the class, and it's helpful for them in their education, which is why we got this.
If you have more comments, please email me. Or I promise we'll talk about this next time. This is a big deal. This is one of the biggest deals we're doing this year. And if I have to look at 300 kids that are getting 10-day drop letters because I really couldn't tell how bad their attendance was getting, that's the thing that cannot happen again. And that's our goal. Okay, here's the next goal. And then I've got to go be the hostess of the school day. We have a great big survey that is currently open for our students. And it was sent in their email and sent in their Canvas. And teachers have a way for students to take it in class if they want to. And I think I sent something out to the parents too. But here is what I did is take just a couple of questions to share with you guys. And I am warning you that there's a little bit of horror here and a little bit of really good news, okay? So this survey was meant to talk about hallways, the perceptions of safety in hallways, in bathrooms, and in the cafeteria. And so I gave you, and it has a lot of questions, like it asks students where they have most of their classes, and it has students talk about, have you seen things on the first floor, the second floor, the third floor? It goes through each floor, and each floor with bathrooms to say what's happening. So the couple of hallway questions I gave you, this happens to be a fourth floor. Have you observed any behaviors that make you feel unsafe or uncomfortable? And this had 466 responses. And you see that 400 of them say, I haven't seen anything that bothers me. And then there's kids who say, I've seen bullying, fighting, vandalism, harassment. And on the next slide that I didn't put on here, we'll give exact numbers of students. Not that we can tell who they are, but just to give you a different picture of how many. And then after it talks about all the halls, it says in general, how safe and secure do you feel in the hallways? Very safe, safe, neutral, unsafe, or very unsafe. And the huge majority of 671 responses on that is from neutral to safe to very safe. I know people that when they wanted me to do this, didn't think that those would be the responses. So I was really glad to see in general. I know we have problems with people saying the N-word or people and things that are happening because there's a place for students to write in specific things. And like they say things like a whole bunch of kids are shuffling around and pushing each other and they accidentally push me. So things that aren't on purpose, but are just kind of the crazy crowd things. And all that will be available, but not today. Bathrooms, whoa. Have you observed any behaviors in the school bathroom that make you feel unsafe or uncomfortable? Check all that apply, 645 students. And this is still open, so I'm hoping to get at least half the students. Lots of some bullying, lots of vandalism, some harassment, lots of vaping. Wow, 400 kids say about that they've seen vaping in the bathroom. Alcohol use, drug use, which could be vaping, because a lot of kids do marijuana in their vapes, but so I don't know if that's the same or different. But then 250 kids say they've never observed anything going on. And like one person says, I do not use the bathrooms at school, which I thought it would be more than that. So I was actually kind of relieved that it was that one poor kid,
Is
whoever it
that my
is.
daughter?
It could be.
It might be more than one.
Well, maybe they haven't
I
answered.
asked her
Everybody
about
doesn't
this and she.
And then there's some other things. A lot of the others have to do with people are making out. People are, kind of PDA stuff, and they don't like that. On a scale of 1 to 5, how safe and secure do you feel in the school bathroom? 250 say neutral, 150 say safe, some very safe, and some very unsafe, and unsafe. So of the 5, that is much more of a, yeah. So what I can say about this is that I felt very brave to bring this to you. I was brave. I am saying.
Because we thought it was this bad and now we can see.
And now this is for real. But the thing that kills me, and this will be my last thing, is that a lot of teachers and others are writing to me saying the bathrooms have never been this good. Which obviously doesn't mean they're perfect, but they are much better.
It's a good
well,
Like it was worse.
like they say.
Like it,
Or
there's toilet paper
and the thing,
in there, like
the thing is,
the toilet works. I know.
Stop
but-
it. Our advocates are doing a really good job. And they have a plan and they check and they're on this floor and then they check in and they go to this bathroom and then they go to this bathroom. So and so I'm wondering, we're gonna do a post test in a couple of months. Because I think that a lot of students who've been at East more than this year from however many weeks have a lot of memories of things last year as well. I'm getting feedback that things are improving. Kids are still vaping like crazy. I
Does
realize they're
do your
addicted.
things work? Do your
The
sensors
vape
work?
things work. But like I told you last time, if someone goes in and does their hair and sprays hairspray, the vape thing goes off. If they talk really loud, hey, so-and-so, come in here, I gotta show you. Too loud of a noise sets it off.
How many kids go to school? Sorry to interrupt. How many kids go to school?
About close to 1900.
So when you get like 250 kids saying it's neutral, it's about a quarter of the population is saying they're neutral. So most of the students are not answering this. They're not taking this.
It's still open.
Is there some kind of an incentive we can offer them? I don't know, 1% extra credit is your lowest rate or whatever.
I'm hoping for half. I'm hoping for half the student body, which I think would be incredible if I get there.
Usually a sample with all surveys,
With small. Well, when I first was looking at it, when it had been open for a few days, I was discouraged because it was only like 289 kids. And I'm like, oh man. So they've been slowly, it's been happening. Kids are doing it. I've asked teachers to remind kids to do it if they haven't. I can also put it in their canvases one more time, and it doesn't allow kids to take it twice. So if kids forgot and they try to get in, they won't. But then the kids who didn't take it will still have a chance. It's still open. I just wanted to really pull a little bit for you today and be brave, because you guys, this is not okay. This is not okay.
No, go. No, you go. Just, you go. How many advocates do you have right now? Is it like
More
4?
like 6.
I know, so it's
Like
hard.
more than
Because the
ever.
majority of this is all gonna happen in chemistry class. This isn't gonna happen if you're like, you need to use the restroom. For the most part, in the middle of a class, if you have faculty. So I'm just thinking, you need people outside of everyone.
I know.
I know. I'm just saying,
But
it's
they
the
are-
reality.
How many bathrooms?
Really.
Yeah, but
More?
one, the boys on the bottom floor is never open, so 7.
I mean, that's just obvious, but I'm just thinking, and I don't have an answer or solution, but like
This number
that's.
of advocates is amazing.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the bathrooms are such an issue. That's what I mean.
Aren't they mainly male? So who's actually looking at the girls' bathroom? Because they can't go in, so.
We have 2 female advocates,
So 2 and
2,
2.
3 or 4. There's like 6. And they're not there all the time, but they have for the first time, and you guys, this is the beginning of my 3rd year. The first 2 years, we had no advocates, no plans, chaos. Sorry, but it was. So to have a plan in place that they're following, to have 6 real live people who are basically there every day, who care and who are really doing their very best to make things better, it's a start. So I share this with you again to show you that I think we're gonna get better over even a little bit of time, because the advocates are gonna stay.
Can we follow this again next
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Because,
hopefully more responses will come in.
well, and there's like 40 different kind of small questions, like this, the bathroom on the 1st floor, the bathroom on the 2nd floor, the bathroom on the, it goes through every single thing.
During conditions.
Yeah.
Because it's 40 minutes of doing nothing, basically. And it could be on paper, because this one is digital. So like if you have to take time out of your days.
Well, you can do it on your computer. It is in your canvas, you can link to it. It's in the big, we're trying.
The only thing is that it's just clear that the bathrooms are an issue. So I know that I'm just saying we have to go with
I
more
know.
solutions.
We
So
need to-
whether they fill it out or not, it feels like it's
That's a pretty
Clear.
start. Yep, there's a problem. So,
Like detectors is that they, someone, like it's not
I
like.
don't know, they change colors. Kids are like, oh, gotta go. It went
Yeah,
on.
it's
so bad. I'm
but
serious.
They just alert someone and like it's up to the person. I don't know actually if that goes to a teacher or a counselor or you,
It
but like,
goes to,
but the person like doesn't show up. It's not like it like starts beeping alarms and like sentences. Like, it's just up to like someone to go catch the kids vaping in this bathroom. It's like.
let's talk about it next. We'll have more.
Yeah, start
and I'll-
brainstorming.
I think you just shut the bathrooms down and set up porta potties, so you fulfill the requirement and it's not enjoyable to do anything. It's terrible if you didn't have that.
One of my questions was that if, let's say, little girls are doing that in a stall and you're just doing your business and they take out everybody, do they take out everybody that's in that bathroom? Or is it like,
I haven't seen what they've been doing.
yeah, because that.
But a lot of times, if there's smoke coming up from one stall, they're not gonna bother with the other stalls. They're gonna go, hey, you guys.
But they actually go in there then.
Yeah, well, the
That's
males go into
right.
the male bathrooms, the females go into female bathrooms. I go into female bathrooms. A lot of other teachers do as well. And usually it's just people all doing their hair. It's like, go to class, stop, go to class. Anyway, there'll be way more to share with this.
Thank you.
We are working.
Before you leave, I just wanted to ask a question. When do we do the budgeting?
I think we were working on it last year, March. March.
And I wanted to ask SCC. We combine into one class this year.
We have calculus AP this year. And it's not up to the SIC, it is up to the students to request the class. So the
So we
BC
not
class,
offering calculus.
The BC, we have one class, which is AD. The teacher, however, has taken it upon himself to prepare the kids for the BC. So we do not have a separate BC class.
Because it didn't carry.
Because it didn't carry.
It only had a few
So,
kids, right?
yes,
Like
we
a part.
cannot have a
So
class.
he's
with
providing
6 students.
services for those.
He
that are-
is on his own time. Now, how effective this is, we will see when the testing time comes. But please encourage students to sign up for classes. The same with the report.
If you wanted to bring it up. Is that good?
Well, when we do the budgeting, I think that's.
Yeah.
Quickly, remind me when they print the schedule. I just know some of us were concerned last year that sometimes there's classes offered that they really aren't
In
attending.
the catalog,
The catalog, excuse
it
me.
is usually early December.
Okay, so
when
there's
we do
still
the
a
catalog.
minute.
Yes, yes.
So we'll talk classes for sure.
I
in
just
November.
worry, I think we need to have a conversation.
We need your help in promoting these classes, because the higher end classes, specifically calculus BC, it is going away. Students are not requesting it. So it's, with the youth board, we don't have a problem approving the class, we have a problem filling in the class with students. So please promote these classes.
We'll definitely make it an agenda item next month.
And to apply, yeah,
Very good.
and to apply for a class, clearly tomorrow's the deadline. I mean, if you want to propose a class, but you can pull off classes
Correct.
And then
before December, which I feel like we need to talk about, because we
And
ran
don't-
into that in the music department last year, where there were too many classes offered, and so you've got 4, 8, 13, when really you're only offering 3 of the 8 classes on there, and we'd rather
they
get
look
strong
full
numbers
and robust,
in only
yeah.
3. So I would like to make sure we're taking off classes.
Well, past practice is if a class doesn't carry for 2 consecutive years,
Okay.
the class is taken off the catalog.
Okay,
The
just
class
2
is
years.
not offered.
Okay.
And then
So-
if we would like to
Oh,
bring
because
the
you don't wanna
class
take
back.
it off, it's like the only way to know if they don't wanna sign up for it is to see the numbers.
Right,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so if we don't offer calculus next year, it's
So it has to.
We can bring it back, yes, but it's
Yeah.
I think
more
let's
difficult, a
work
lot
to
more
get
difficult
kids
to bring
in
it back.
Yeah, before we're getting rid of it.
Okay, let's talk classes.
I know. Okay, let's move down. Let's see. Who's next?
I have to go too.
Mark? Yes.
I don't have any agenda items, but do you have any questions of me before I go?
I just have a quick question. Is your schedule usually very full, like as a
Counselors?
counselor? Yeah.
So what we do is we're doing our senior annual meetings right now. So after we do our seniors, the first term, we do our juniors second term, our sophomores third term, and then ninth graders are being done throughout the year by Cassidy. She's a ninth grade counselor. And then, but she doesn't get to because she has the biggest load, because there's about 500 ninth graders. And we help her at the very end on the fourth term to finish up those. So is our schedule really full? Yep, it's full all year long, but we set aside time every day that you can come in and walk in before school, during your students' lunches, or after school. You just walk in. So we've all committed to that. So 15 minutes before, if you knock on the door, I'm there an hour before. So knock on the door and yell, "Hey, Andrew, I know you're in there." And you're one of mine, call it you. You're one of the other ones. I'll say, "Well, wait till they get here." But so we're here before school, after school, and during lunches just for walking. We won't take appointments there so that you can come see us.
Well, the reason I ask is if there's any way we can do like a positive reinforcement for seeing counselors, since not seeing as just a punishment, especially for this beta version of this attendance policy that's not even working very well. We're still refining it. Is there any way we can have positive reinforcement for coming to see you before
well,
problems?
Here's my experience. And I would say I'm not so different from the other counselors. It's just been positive. The students come and does, and they're glad to see us because they know that we're going to sign a form that's going to get them off the activity hold. And then I have friendly conversations. I don't think the other counselors, I think they do too. It's like, how can we get rid of this problem? What's causing this? And so I don't feel like I need to reinforce that. I think they're coming in. It's the relationships that we build with them through our annual meetings. Hopefully they want to come and see us. And we don't give punishments. As a matter of fact, anytime administration even attempts to suggest that we do some kind of punishment, we say, well, that's not our role. We're advocates for students and parents. And so don't put us in that adversarial position, because we don't want to be that. We want to be advocates for you. So that doesn't mean we always get what you want, but we're your advocate. ask us and we'll tell you what the policy is if we can't do something, or we'll say, well, let's go try and see if we can get an exception to that. We can't.
So every time I try to see counselors for questions or whatever, it's always, you know, at the beginning. Before the beginning of the year.
Right.
And the before school, after school, lunchtime, usually is like 2-3 hours. Wait, does it get better?
At the beginning of school?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning of school it is. And here's the
So
reason
I'm
why.
just asking, what is the wait time for before school and lunch?
Right now, I wait for kids to come see me because they don't want to, they don't want to spend their free time coming to see me, you know, so I'm a fun guy too. I know. Hang out with you for a while, bring your lunch.
Yeah, those does not respond to me.
But at the beginning of the year, it's really hard, and here's why it's hard, is because East High is one of the most friendly, school friendly as far as changing schedules. I know because I had students at West and I have friends at Highland, and we are the most user friendly as far as, oh, you don't want that class? We talked to them and I tried to brainstorm, you know, options. Is that, you know, are you sure you want to drop all those classes or this and that? But when it push comes to shove, when it comes down to it, kids get to decide. And so when you see a long waiting list at the beginning of the school year, that's because your students and my students and everybody's students are trying to adjust their schedule to get with their friends or to get the right lunch. And I'll be honest, I try to get it to them because I want them to have the best schedule that they can have so that they have the best experience that they can have. And so I advocate with our other counselors. I said, hey, this is how we get kids to go to class, get them the right classes that they want, you know. And so that's what we try to do. And that's why you see the longer lines at the beginning, because we're very allowing of students to change their schedules.
Well, I have to say, every experience I've had has been so positive.
I would say the same way, 8 of my children.
I
We
just
try
want to
hard.
say thank you.
Yeah, we try hard.
It's been fabulous.
But that's it. But after that, if you come in tomorrow, I bet you can come see me and we can hang out and talk.
Yeah. Make sure Elizabeth's graduating.
Yep, make sure she's graduating.
Can you be part of the, sorry, maybe I didn't ask that question correctly. Can you be part of the conversation to create a set of positive reinforcement for the attendance policy? Instead of just punishing those that you know, couldn't attend or whatnot, can we create something?
We had that for quite some time, positive reinforcements. And I think there was a pendulum swing a number of years ago, and I think we went all positive. You know, we tried to reward everything to see we have Beast Bucks. So I mean, I can give Beast Bucks out to students for coming in and getting off some of them off of those attendance hold. So there's that already in place, the Beast Bucks. There may be other ones. I would say, just if you knew my personality, you'll probably be better at coming up with good ideas and share them with us, you know, because you're with your students. I don't know what motivates kids, you know, my kids are all adults. Just tell them to do the right thing and you get punished if you don't, you know. No, I don't. But I think you as a body can give us a lot of great ideas that way. But our school is not against positive reinforcements. I know that. Matter of fact, there was a swing so much that way that I think we went away from any consequences. And if you know behavior modification principles, and that's what educators are supposed to know those, you got to have both. Some kids are just not motivated by positive reinforcements. They need a consequence. And some of my kids in my own family were that way. You know, I couldn't reward them enough to do something, so I said, well, if you don't do it, then there is a consequence to it. And we need both of them. We need a balance of both. We didn't have a balance of both. We used to not have the positive things. I think we've swung over there. Now I think we're getting back to what we have. That's a good thing. And I was supporting the good ideas that you have. Positive things.
We used to have a lunch assembly for 4.0 students and students without any absences, stuff like that. Maybe we can bring this back if there is enough incentive to the students. They used to have lunch in the ballroom, free pizza for students once a term. So again, if this is something that has enough interest in the student body, we can definitely bring this back.
My kid liked it. So I had a really freshman.
Maybe that's going to suggest to him.
Yeah,
Which is great. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
That's a good idea.
Aaron, I have one more thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Next. Last year, she talked about
I don't
I
think she
can
promised
address
it,
this.
but
No,
she brought it up.
No, I can address this though, because we have talked about this for years. The fire department is not letting us have one lunch. Because we have small cafeteria, we cannot have that many students in the small space. So it's not the school, it's coming from the fire department. There is a rule which says a certain room can have X number of people in it at any given time. We would love one lunch, because then I can see all my students at the same time if they need to have access with me. Right now, I'm on one lunch, students who need me are on a different lunch.
They come during
So-
your lunch.
And which means sometimes they have to miss another class, which doesn't work either. So we have worked,
Let's try,
yes.
working with the fire department, because I know we can split the spaces. So we can use a gym and the
Let's bring it up.
cafeteria.
We do it next meeting.
And we can assign the kids,
We got to keep going.
you know, the space.
We can,
I think
except
that we
that they buy their lunch at one place. So, but if you can work it with the fire department, kudos to you. It's, we'll work on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Elena, go ahead. Do you have? what do you have?
I don't have many SIC issues. I just want to reiterate a couple of things. I've been taking good notes here today. The attendance, from what I got, I just want to make sure I heard two different things. One was parents need to have a way to excuse legitimate tardies, because right now you do not have a way of doing that, okay? So we're going to work on that. And then the second one is some students were still on hold after they worked out their contract. So to me, this means we need to have a running paper record. We should not rely on the system. So we need Excel spreadsheet or master spreadsheet where everybody can input the students who are off the list. It will be a backup to our system. Is there anything else for attendance?
Yes, not everybody is being informed of the activity.
I think that's just a system issue. Like no one's getting emails.
And we have been told, because I asked about that, but I have been told that the email goes to the school email for the student. Now, if you never check this email, there is a very good chance that you never got it.
Yeah, but a lot of people, like, it happened at homecoming, a lot of people didn't know that because they checked their school email. And like, that's what happened to my date, she was checking it, like, she was like reloading the page as we were walking in, because like, I really don't want to be an activity, hopefully they show up to this thing. And she was, so like.
Or maybe the email could also go to parents. I have not received it.
Okay, I will check on that. Again, I don't know what system they use to send this. I assume it's automatic. I don't think anyone said and entered all the names of the people. I think it's automatic, but I will double check on that email. As far as the report, I have a couple of things and I will combine Lynette's, the student government, and mine. The cell phone is a huge undertaking. So right now we are gathering data from teachers as to how often they're using cell phones in their classroom, what is the purpose of the cell phone use, and whether they would support a full ban even for academic purposes. And then next week, the committee will sit down, we'll look at all the data. They will compare again the district policy and the proposed parent policy. And they will try to come up with a set of rules that are within the district guidance, but yet fit what the teachers are doing in their classrooms. And then we will take it from there. Any concerns, questions?
Quick question.
Yes.
Tom Henriot, who wrote the draft, asked me, I don't see it on the agenda. So I'll talk to Lynette and you adjust it. Is that meeting open, like if you wanted to come and
Yes.
observe?
Yes.
I've tried
Absolutely.
to come to SAC and nobody would like to.
Not the SAC, we're
No
not going
SIC.
to, no, we're
Okay.
not going to talk about this during the SIC because this will be a preliminary meeting for this committee.
Okay.
The SIC, just like this committee, has lots of things to discuss. So the findings of this committee will be presented to the SIC. So he's more than welcome to be part of the committee, which means he will go to their, whether it's I assume it will be weekly meetings because we're pressed. We want, if there is a policy in place, we want this policy to be put in place as soon as possible. So
When is the meeting?
I don't know that.
Okay, I'll
So
look.
Lynette is the chair of the committee. As far as coming to the SIC meeting, the SIC sometimes deals with internal business. You can read the minutes for the SIC, but coming to the internal discussions, outside entities is
Confidential.
Yes, sorry. Another one for the student government is, overall, the student government made about $2,000 at homecoming with over 500 students attending. This was a great success. The next big events are tomorrow. We have a tailgate from 5 until 6:30, featuring student clubs, and we will also be honoring Marisa Zucchetto. We have a booth there where people can blow up pink balloons. They can write memories of Marisa or memories of someone they have lost to cancer. The balloons will be tied to the bleachers during the game. And then after the games, those with memories for Marisa will be given to the family members. There will also be a short special ceremony to honor Ms. Zucchetto. It will be at 6:45 at the stadium. Then the upcoming dance is the Halloween dance. It is October 21st. The theme is Nightmare Before Christmas, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking at Betsy, but
I have
okay.
no idea.
Okay, all right. So the theme is Nightmare Before Christmas. And then in November, we will have auditions for multicultural assembly. More details as far as the specific dates and how long each number should be will come later.
Yes, can I just say thank you for how Heritage Conferences went. I thought it was perfect. I loved the efficiency of the gym and just, I mean, I was there the whole 3 hours, so I guess efficient, but for me to be able to
Thank you for the
get
feedback.
that many teachers, I want to
Thank
say
you for the feedback. I talked to some of you at last SCC meeting, so I relate the was very the desire. So
Thank you.
we are a team and we will work together. That's my commitment to you.
Thank you so much. The last thing, Sarah gave me just a few little dates for the PTSA report, and tomorrow, actually, no wrong, reflections are due November 10th, and the theme is I am hopeful because. So anyone that wants to do reflections, the deadline is November 10th. There's a service project, October 25th. It's the first of 3. I just forgot the notes really fast, but that'll be October 25th in OB during lunch. And Shelly Kamatu takes care of that. So that would be great. And then the other thing that's coming up for PTA is Friendsgiving, which you know that they have a couple of representatives in charge, and they will be working with Roman to get all of that taken care of. And yeah, that would be. So I'm sure she'll have more for us at our next meeting.
Sorry, when is Friends?
It is, I don't know. She just said it was, there wasn't a date. She just said it's coming up. So
Is it just I think it's this 14th or 17th. Oh, I'm like 15th.
so what is the student Friendsgiving? I don't know.
Basically, it's like, yeah, I'm president of our city meeting, so we're like meeting civic advocacy, opportunity, environmental public security, environment, and we're just gonna like talk and just have the like it's like just not talk about it. Yeah.
You introduce your name, Sarah, since you.
Yeah. I'm Hannah.
Hannah of this,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. Thanks for coming.
Okay, I love that. I love that you're doing that. That's really cool. Is there anything else? I think we're going to shut it down. And if there's anything else that we want for next month's agenda, please send me an email. I'll send it out, take a look at it, let me know. obviously we'll have Pam follow up more on the safety. I wish we had more time to talk about this, but we will follow up more with that, and attendance policy, we can follow up with that as well. Obviously classes will be big next month, and I think that that's kind of it.
Can I make a request, Elena? I know last year it was sort of thrown on us. It wasn't the SCC chair's role, but it was just kind of like, oh, we have all these classes and you get approved, you guys need to sign up. And I felt like I would love to know more about the classes, have a summary, some description of why they're being proposed. Is that you or is that the assistant principal?
It's usually an assistant principal,
Okay.
but I will make sure they do that.
That would be helpful. It's something that we could be looking at before the meeting to know what the classes are.
And I did email Jen about that, and she said that they were going to be talking about it after fall break, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
on the
shall-
17th.
Great.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Thank you.
that'd be good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And I thought it was important to hear all of the presentations. So that did go longer than an hour, but thank you for staying.
Great job on your first meeting.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hey, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
And hey, you should actually talk to me about this. Yes. I would love to know.
I think there's a friend giving that they forgot. I would love to be. There is that as well. I should have said that. Yes. That's okay. That's true. Thank you.